Welcome back, crafters. I'm G.OctoCo, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about cosplay finances. Obligatory disclaimer, this video is not financial aid, nor am I qualified to provide such advice. I'm just a cosplayer who also enjoys budgeting and finding ways to save. Creating a sustainable budget is important in life as it helps you track your money and spending. This is incredibly important when participating in an expensive hobby like cosplay. It can be easy to overspend as projects and plans grow. And if you put in the effort to make a budget, you want to make sure you can sustain it. Setting up a budget that doesn't work with your income or situation will just set you up for failure in the future. If you don't have a personal budget yet, now's a great time to start. There's many ways to create a budget and many more educational videos to walk you through it, but I'll introduce you to two basic strategies. The first is the 50-30-20 method. This method means taking your income and setting half of it aside for your needs, like rent, groceries, or insurance. 30% of your income should be set aside for fun, like eating out or cosplay, and the last 20% should be set aside for savings, whether that means putting it in a 401k or high-yield savings. This method is one of the simplest strategies, which makes it useful for beginners. Our second method is the zero-based budget. This means splitting up your income into different categories. The sum of these categories should be equal to your income. In other words, if you subtract your income from the sum of these categories, it should be equal to zero, hence the name. While this might be a bit more complex, it is more customizable. There's a lot of free online resources that can help you through setting up a budget, and I would encourage everyone to put a bit of time and design a personal budget. But once you have a budget, it's time to fit cosplay into it. As a hobby, cosplay should really be budgeted under your fun spending. You need food and somewhere to sleep at night, and no cosplay is worth going into debt for. It's expensive enough without being charged interest. When I first started cosplaying, I set a specific amount dedicated to cosplay, but now I combined it all into my fun spending. Whatever you choose to do, make sure it works for you. When figuring out how much money you want to dedicate to cosplay, it can help to look at your past cosplays and how much they cost you, so you can figure out what you're likely to spend in the future. My first budget set $20 aside every month. I figured this out by looking at my previous cosplays. Back then, each cosplay was costing me an average of $70, and I was making 3 a year. So if I was spending around $200 over 12 months, I could budget $17 a month. However, nowadays my cosplays are much more complex, so I spend a lot more. There's multiple levels to cosplay, so if you're new to cosplay or haven't been able to track your spending, here's a few examples to help you determine how much you may be spending. Our first category here is casual cosplays. These are cosplays that are made from thrifted materials, or maybe even pieces you already own. They tend to be simpler and smaller. I can spend anywhere from $30 to $50 on these types of cosplays. The cosplays I have in this category is Gent from Dr. Stone, who is $35. He was made entirely from thrifted bed sheets. In fact, I think the only new thing I purchased for him was his wig, which by itself was about $20. My first Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel cosplay was $36. I reused clothing from my own closet for him, so the only thing I bought was the wig, some fabric, and a ring. My wild tiger from Tiger and Bunny was $48. Honestly, I don't know how I spent so much since I got all the cardboard from work for free. I think I bought the bodysuit and maybe some paint for him. My Alan Walker from D. Greyman was $50. His outfit was entirely thrifted, or, like the shoes, used material I already had. The next category, though, is our complex builds. These cosplays are larger and made from new material. They might have larger props or robotic pieces. These are much more expensive and for me tend to reach around $300. Most of my recent cosplays tend to fall into this category. I have Alistair from Hazbin Hotel, who is $289. While his outfit is thrifted, the hooves were $100 on their own, and his staff has a working speaker, which increased the price. My Rin Kagame, the Daughter of Evil version, also fits into this category at $297, most of which was fabric, but also included her wig, new shoes, a hoop skirt, and materials for her crown. And my most expensive cosplay so far has been my updated Pit from Kid Icarus, who reached $298 thanks to his light-up wings. It's important to mention some exceptions. I've had several cosplays that don't quite fit the price point of the category they fit into, simply because of the materials I use to make them. My Ranmaru cosplay, from Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, should be considered a complex build due to his tail. However, he only comes to about $86. Because the clothes were made from thrifted materials, the most expensive part for him was the tail, which was only about $50 between the foam and the blanket I used. However, Opera from Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun is my other exception. Based on the fact that their outfit is entirely thrifted, they would be considered a casual cosplay, but they were actually $240 due to the robotic ears. So when you're planning your cosplay, make sure to do a bit of research into the materials you plan on using for each too. Price points can vary drastically, even if they are in the similar categories. Now, once you have a general estimate for the price point of your cosplay, you can start figuring out how to divide it up. Divide it up however will work best for you. Having a budget isn't the end of cosplay finances, though. Perhaps by the end of it, you've realized that you have a really small amount to work with, or maybe you just want to find a way to make your budget stretch a bit further. Learning a few saving techniques is also an important factor of cosplay finances, so I want to share a few of my favorite ones. First technique is to learn your cosplay staples and reuse them. If you're anything like me, you might find that a lot of characters you cosplay wear similar clothes. The best purchases I've ever made are a white button-down shirt and a pair of black pants. So many of the characters I cosplay use these pieces. Take Alan from D. Greyman, for example. He's the one I bought these for, so he uses both the button-down and the black pants as a base for his outfit. But he's far from the only one. My Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel makes use of the button-down shirt, and Aizawa from My Hero Academia uses the black pants. Having these also make planning future cosplays easier, like Wolfwood from Trigun, who will use both the pants and the shirt. A lot of my cosplays use these staples, so I strongly encourage you to find your own. Finding these staples will make future cosplays easier to make and can significantly reduce the cost of future cosplays. Similar to finding your staples, consider making those large, expensive parts reusable. Obviously, this might be difficult if something is particularly stylized or unique, but when it's an option, choosing to make something more general can save you a lot of money. My most recent example of this is my Alistair hooves. These hooves alone cost me $228, and I'm not exactly eager to remake them anytime soon. When I was deciding on the color, I considered painting the bottom red to be reminiscent of Alistair's normal shoes, but I decided on plain black so I could reuse them if I ever had another hooved character. And I've already reused props Pit from Kid Icarus's wings for characters like my Lucifer. Even though they can glow blue, their normal state of pure white works perfectly, and since they were $230 to make, reusing them is fine by me. When it's an option, I like to make these larger parts covers as well to interchange them when needed. This is mostly seen in parts like the tails I make. For characters like Opera and Ranmaru, I've made the fur removable from the foam base. This means that if I ever have another character with similar tails, all I have to do is make a cover for the base, which tends to be far cheaper than remaking the whole foam piece. Finding ways to reuse these larger props, it can make future cosplays easier to afford. The best way to save money, though, might be shopping in your closet first. Since your closet probably already has clothes you like and fit you properly, it's also a good way to ensure you feel comfortable in your cosplay. I've already done this for several cosplays. My Lucifer cosplay makes use of the white pants and shoes I already had, and my Aizawa cosplay reused boots I had. Since these would be pieces you already own, they're completely free for the cosplay, and you might surprise yourself with how many cosplays you already own. Now, I'm sure you're expecting this answer. Thrifting tends to be one of the first suggestions whenever people are talking about saving money, but it's for a good reason. Thrifting tends to be much cheaper than buying new, which makes it a bit easier to cut up and change clothing. You can stumble into some perfect gems that you never would have expected to find. Just about all of my cosplays have some sort of thrifted material in them. Most often I buy bedsheets or curtains. You can get a lot of fabric for a much cheaper price than buying from a fabric store, which means you'll have plenty of fabric for not only the cosplay itself, but also any mistakes you might make. Now, when you have extra money set aside for it, consider buying certain items in bulk, especially if you know you'll need a lot of it in the future. This might be a bit more expensive in the short term, but overall it can be a lot cheaper. I do this most often for glue. Since I went through a lot of it, whenever I buy crafting glue, I end up buying it by the gallon. I bought the first gallon when I made my first Pit wings, and it lasted through the upgraded wings in my upcoming Fallon dress. I also like to overbuy on fabric, so I can use it for future projects, and the less frequent colors can be used for mock-up patterns. Bulk buying has been very useful for many of my projects. Take my Alistair, for example. The black fur I used for his tail was originally purchased for my Opera cosplay, and the foam I used for Opera's tail was the same foam from when I made Ranmaru's tail. I've even managed to make a full Ren Fair costume for free last summer using only the materials I already had. Having items on hand can save a lot of money overall. So, there's a lot of strategies and techniques to utilize in order to ensure your cosplay is affordable and stays within your budget. However, the most important one may be patience. There's nothing wrong with waiting a couple of months and saving up for your cosplay, especially some of the larger purchases. Maybe you want to wait for a sale that you know is coming, or for the perfect item to show up in a thrift store. Giving yourself time can certainly pay off, so don't pressure yourself into getting a cosplay done in an arbitrary time limit. While it might be an expensive hobby, cosplay is by no means unaffordable. It might require more time or creativity, but there's certainly ways to build a budget and ensure your cosplay stays within it. This video inspired you to create your own budget. I hope to see you next time. Stay crafty, everyone.